All right, well, welcome to our meet and greet with Alexandra and Tracy as part of our weekend extravaganza for International Day of Yoga, which is actually on Monday, in conjunction with the Blockhouse Yoga Wellness Studio grand opening tomorrow. So I just formulated a few questions to chat with the instructors. So if you guys, did you guys want to introduce yourselves before I go? Sure. Officially?
Sure. I'm Alexandra Nedergaard, also known as Alex, and I've been teaching in the Mahone Bay area since we moved here about 19 years ago, and originally from Toronto, where I did my teacher training and taught for a few years before we moved here, and just love the area, love the students, happy to be providing a nice yoga community in our Blockhouse Yoga Studio and partnering with Tracy, which is such a beautiful joining together of I think really good intention of what we both have in mind for what we wanted to offer to the community. So
awesome. I'm just going to make a note because you guys are a little further away from your computer. Just speak up a little bit because it's a little hard to hear you.
Come a little closer. Yeah, we can come closer.
Sure.
Hear us better. We do have a mic too, but then we'd have to share it. Yeah, we'd have to bounce it back.
Yeah, just speak up and you should be fine. You just kind of cut out a little bit there, Alex. So.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
All right. And Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Murdock. I've been teaching in Mahone Bay for over 10 years, and originally from Alaska by way of a few different places, California and BC, ended up here, and happy to be here too with this in this beautiful space, a beautiful place, and then happy to have started this studio with Alex in September, so getting close to a year already.
Yeah. Wow.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both. And I guess I should introduce myself just if people are wondering who I am and why I'm asking you guys a bunch of questions. My name is Tissy Bolivar, and I'm the program coordinator with the municipality of the District of Lunenburg. So we partnered with Blockhouse Yoga to offer this series of events over the weekend. So let me pull up some questions. So you kind of briefly talked about where you've been, where you're coming from, but can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in yoga?
I started doing yoga as a cross training to the sport that I was playing competitively when in my younger years. I was playing ultimate frisbee, and just finding that I would get hurt, rolled ankles or tight knees, and so somebody recommended, oh, you should try yoga for getting a good stretch. And the first time I went to a yoga class, I realized that it was way more than just a physical practice, and I've been hooked ever since. And within 6 months of that day, I did my first 40-hour teacher training and haven't looked back. So that's how I got started.
And I came to yoga by the way of a pretty scary medical situation. Back in August of 1999, I had a ruptured appendix, which landed me in a variety of different emergency rooms and finally the OR. And then as I was kind of crawling out of that harrowing experience, my massage therapist at the time had recommended Kyla Kukla's flow yoga class. And this is when I was still in Toronto. And I picked up the phone and called her because at that 1999, we were still using landlines. I don't even think she had a website. And she spent about an hour on the phone talking to me and just was so compassionate and so loving and said, try the class. You're recovering. This would be a good nurturing place to land. And then I did one class with her and I was, similar to Tracy, completely hooked. I'd always been the sort of workout girl, the gym, the whole thing. And I just never looked back. I don't think I ever had another gym membership after that. And then she announced that she was doing a teacher training a month or two later. And I'd never done any yoga before until I landed with Kyla, and then all of a sudden I was doing her teacher training, which took about a year to complete, and then decided to move beyond just being in her class to teaching myself, and then eventually, a couple of years later, we moved out here, and the rest is history. But it was that first class based on just needing to feel nurtured and loved, and happy to report that flow yoga and yoga in general is still nurturing and loving me. So it's been a good marriage.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about how you two connected and came together and the partnership that you've created for Blockhouse Yoga.
We actually laughed when you asked this question. I was just reading the questions before this to Alex, and we both laughed in memory of the experience, because we were actually, to get a little personal, we were both diagnosed with cancer within 2 weeks of each other 4.5 years ago.
And we laughed.
We didn't laugh then,
No, we laughed.
but we laugh now. We hadn't known each other very well. We kind of crossed paths a couple times in the community over the years, but then when that happened, another mutual friend of ours connected us and said, "You guys are both going through this at the same time. Maybe you can support each other through it." And that's what we did. Yeah. And then we stayed friends for the last, and then we just kind of, our friendship just kind of has built over the last few years. And we both at one point got home, felt like we were homeless with where we were teaching. We kind of didn't feel great with our individual places where we were teaching in the community, and just started talking about what if we could find a space that we could just make an exclusive, beautiful space for yoga. So.
Yeah, similar to the medical situation with the ruptured appendix that landed me in yoga, it was through some adversity that Tracy and I really connected, although we've kind of been moving around each other in the same orbit with both being yoga teachers in a small community. Always respected her and certainly heard great things about her classes, but I think it was through our joint, just dealing with a major thing, which was breast cancer. And we joke and say we're breast friends, which is, I'd like to own that phrase, but I read that. So, it was amazing because she went through it before I did. And I will always, I'm going to get all emotional, but I will always cherish how wonderful she was in telling me, "You're going to be fine." If she had just walked that path a little bit further ahead of me. And I think there was just a wonderful forging of not just a friendship, but a real soul spirit connection, which I think you feel when you're in our space. I feel that, for sure. And
So
hopefully,
so that's how it started.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. So someone's new coming into yoga. What would you tell them are the benefits of doing yoga?
You want to take that one first?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could almost borrow the page from my situation when I picked up the phone and called Kyla, and really for me, because I mean, everyone comes to the mat from a lifetime of whatever, and it could just be curiosity, or I want to get fit, or in your situation, I'm injuring myself a lot, and I need to sort of stretch more, or be more open, or maybe they're really ready to take a deep dive into some spiritual stuff, but there is something for everyone, no matter where you're coming in from. And I think the benefit is essentially what you bring to the mat. I mean, you'll show up with whatever it is in your mind that you think you need from yoga, and you might actually find out that you're getting something completely different that you didn't even know you need, but you needed more. So, the benefits, we don't even have enough time to list all of the amazing things that can happen in a yoga class. But for me, initially, I just felt like I was coming home. I felt accepted. I wasn't feeling at that time in my life that I felt my body had betrayed me. I was angry a little bit. I felt let down by the medical establishment in Ontario, which isn't hard to do. And don't even get me started on that whole story. But then at the end of the day, I felt like I needed to feel secure and safe and learn to trust and love myself again, and to love my body. And I think a lot of people have that struggle with how they're feeling in their own body and how they're feeling emotionally. And I think with a good, strong practice, yes, you'll get stronger. Yes, there's certainly the toning and the vitality that comes from it, but there's also a really emotional and mental component that makes me, I think, just more level, even keeled person. It certainly got me through motherhood and being, when I was first married, and my relationship with my husband, and just how I am with my friends and family members. I think it just makes me a lot more level and balanced is the big one for me.
Yeah. I think my classes are pretty active. And so I think people come to my classes originally because they're trying to get a workout. That's what they think it's going to be. And it is, but I think that, like me, in my first experience, that they are surprised that there's more of an emotional, mental support, because I think a lot of what happens on the mat with the way we teach is that it brings you into the present moment, and then you're not worrying about anything that happened already or something that could happen in the future. And when you do that, then that just completely releases any anxiety or stress, and you just feel so much calmer. So to me, that's a huge one. Like, I mean, physically, I can say I'm stronger than I've ever been in my life, and I don't go to the gym. Like, it's yoga and my farm, but this is like, doing yoga is really what I do physically a lot. And so I think a lot of the benefit sneaks up on people. So you might come for the physical reasons because that's what you hear about first, but
At least in the West.
At least in the West, right? But then you realize like how calming, I would say, like a big thing is just people talk about how calming it is, how they feel so much better at the end of a class. You know, during all these crazy times that we've been going through this last year, that all of us have been going through collectively, when we've been, you know, online in the last month. I'm sure Alex's students have said this kind of same thing. Like, I couldn't have gotten through it without your class. Like, I hear that constantly because it's just, there's some support. They don't need the physical support necessarily in those cases. They need to know that they're not alone, that they're part of a community. And I think that's a benefit in itself, the emotional and physical, or the emotional and mental and spiritual support of feeling like you're doing this together.
Which is why it's so great that we've reopened and there's an actual place that people can come, because there was a huge contingent of people that just don't want to do it online, that have missed the yoga for 2 months. The idea of coming together collectively and the benefit of breathing together and the meditative practice that is tandem with doing the actual postures and doing it with others, just infuses it with more life. It just gives it a little more of a charge than doing it solitarily alone, which is also a beautiful experience too. But I know myself, I like the social connection. I like connecting with people, and I feel like I'm a little more disciplined and more apt to show up if I've got a class that I need to get to. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes you a little more accountable for your practice.
And honestly, when you've got a room full of people and they're all breathing together, it's the most amazing thing. Like, I think about like that, you know, you hear about, what is it, like aspen trees, that they have all these roots down under the ground, and they're like, you know, acres and acres of trees that are all one tree, but because the roots are all connected to each other. And it feels like that in the yoga class when everybody's like breathing and moving together. Yeah, it just, you are part of the whole.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So again, if someone were coming in new, Tracy, you mentioned that your classes are maybe a little more active. I know you guys both do a few different classes, and there's a large variety. So how do you know which yoga is right for you?
Well, funny you should say and ask. We recently, just on our website, blockhouseyoga.com, we just shot a little 12-minute video that walks people through a little more detail about each of the classes that we offer. And of course, there's a description on the website too, which kind of gives you some level of parameter to know what feels right. But essentially, it's trial and error. It's finding the right class for the right fit. Now, there's certain ones that you know, if you're recovering from an injury, or you're not someone who's maybe wanting to be so, you know, such a vigorous practice, you may want to avoid my intermediate class on Wednesday night, which is a flow, but there's some inversions, and it's essentially, you know, there's a little more of a workout involved, and of course Tracy's vinyasa on Monday night, I think, and Saturday would probably be, you know, but if you're looking for exactly what you just said, something that's going to give you that strength and it's perfect. But there's also the lovely thing about having so many different classes on offer is there's something for everyone. The chair yoga is great. I think ideally, I love the idea that no matter who you are or what your physical limitations are, you can still show up and do yoga.
And that's absolutely true. You can do yoga in any body.
Exactly.
Right.
Sometimes it's just sitting and breathing, right?
Yeah.
So that's yoga if it's mindful. So,
right.
You know.
Yeah. And people will call us, like brand new people will hear about us. We've gotten calls from folks saying, you know what, I want to try yoga, but I don't know where to start. And so then we just have a conversation with them. It's like, well, is there anything going on in your body? How are you feeling? And if they're feeling fine, or maybe, you know, it's like, well, you know, we kind of talk about the classes, and then it's like, well, you know, maybe something a little more active or less active. And, you know, so there's kind of like, the classes range from really gentle with a chair and you don't even get on the floor, to the next level is like gentle, but a little bit more up and down. And, you know, we just kind of go up from there. So
Yeah, and like for instance, the yin, and there's also like our yin class on Sundays, it's holding and it's more meditative and slow. But you can also choose to do 2 other classes that have half of the class is yin, so you still get that. But then you might also get a little vinyasa thrown in for good measure in Tracy's class, where you'll get the flow experience. So you can, if you don't have the time to commit to 2 classes a week, you can choose at least 2 classes on our schedule that push 2 classes together, so you get 2 experiences in one. So we're always trying to listen to our students and understand what they need and what they want and adapt the schedule. Some things stay on the schedule, sometimes it gets dropped if there's not enough interest, then we recreate something new that you just sent out a survey or you're about to for another kind of offering that. So we're always, because you have to change, you gotta shake it up. You gotta, you know, you can't be attached to the schedule and the way things always are, because people will let you know what they need. And we really wanna listen.
Yeah.
We are listening, and we wanna provide people with the most deep and hopefully enjoyable experience they can when they walk through our doors. So we try to give us as much of a variety as possible.
yeah.
Okay. So the last, excuse me, the last question I had was, what are your favorite yoga poses? Why are they your favorite? And would you be interested in showing us them?
Jeans.
Yeah, jeans might be a little tricky.
No, the pose that I have in mind, I can do with jeans on. Yeah. Do you know what you wanted? Because so for when you asked that question, I was like thinking, what's my favorite? And there's like, I mean, there's lots of great poses, but at this time of the year, when I'm in the garden all the time, we have a farm and we grow food and we're working all the time when I'm not busy teaching classes. And so when you're hunched over and you're like in this forward fold thing all the time, which generally, hopefully my form isn't quite as bad when I'm gardening, but the counter pose to that is a big heart opener. And so what I like to do is basically supported fish with a bolster. So I'll show you that. We can just tip this down a tiny bit. So basically, you're just gonna lay on your mat with a bolster, or if you don't have a bolster, just use a couple pillows perpendicular to your spine, and then just lay down on it so that your shoulders roll off of it and your head can be on the mat or on a blanket, arms out to the sides. And it just feels so good if you've been folding forward a lot in anything. It could be just staring at your computer or hunching over something else, paperwork. Yeah, so this is my favorite right now.
And I'll share 2, and the reason I'm sharing 2 is because the first one, and it's so funny, the thing that confronted me most when I first started doing yoga is the one that I end up loving the most. And it's staff, and it's a tough one for a lot of people in the sense, and it's not that it's a hard pose to do, but I think what happens is we have to open up and trust and be exposed in it. So with our legs straight out, this is the one that always made me kind of, I just felt extremely, I pushed back on it, and now it turns out to be one of my favorite poses. And I probably don't do any class without actually doing this pose. So your legs are straight and the backs of the knees drop down and the feet are flexed, and then you're just breathing your arms straight up overhead, lining them up with the ears and pulling up through the front of the spine, and gaining some height and length through the front of the spine. I like to say that this is also what helps to build a little height. If you find you've been practicing for fun, like if you're gaining that 1/4 of an inch, you know, which can happen in a good yoga class or a good yoga practice, because you're really being mindful and opening up. And similar to what Tracy was just saying, the hunching over and all the computer work that we do, and we're also very protective of our heart and our front. So this gives that opportunity in a nice, welcoming, trusting yoga class when you're feeling like you're in your safe spot where you can really let yourself get up and open and expose. And the other one I always go back to is I love the pigeon pose, mainly because I really love the hip opening of this one. So it's really starting in a table pose, and then you're bringing one knee forward between the hands, and you're also sliding back with the opposite leg. And what's so yummy about this is you can give some movement and some flow and some rocking into the hips. So it's a nice deep massage. And then you can also, I'm gonna just have you scoot your legs. You can also just rock down and take a little fold into it. So it's just curling in the shoulders if you like.
dropping the head and really getting a nice deep opening into that left side or to the leg that's got the knee bent. That hip just gently opens. And then softly bringing it up. And once again, taking it back into that nice heart opening. So you're coming out before you release, you just look up and open up to the front of the spine. And I also really like to do that one. That's one that's often in most of my, certainly in my flow classes. I really enjoy that. And it's just an amazing, yummy way to get your hips nice and open. So I love that one as well.
Awesome. We do have someone watching with us. I just wanted to put it out to see if they had any questions specifically for you.
We'll see if she comes on. She might not. No, I guess not.
No, that's all right. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share with the world, the internet world? Would you like to tell us where your studio is located?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Come down to the crossroads, as Eric Copton and Robert Johnson used to say. We're at the four-way stop at Blockhouse. So about, I would say, a 5-minute drive from Home Bay, and pretty much that junction. So you kind of go past us if you're heading towards Bridgewater, Lunenburg, right off the highway, exit 11 off the 103. So it's a very nice, centrally located, and we've got a lot of parking out front, which is also really great. There's a lot of really great reasons why we love being in the studio, but the awesome landlord that has been very accommodating and very generous with the parking, which is a big deal. And the fact that there's no stairs or things that you need to climb up, particularly for some of the classes which are specific to people with some mobility issues. Right. What a godsend. I don't think I've ever been in any space in this area that allows for just park your car and walk straight through the door. So that's great. And it's great. It's so easy to explain. It's like right by Sam Ali's general store. We're right at the four-way stop. We've now got a brilliant, beautiful pink sign hanging, so you can see us pretty clearly note over there. And it's just, yeah, it's a nice little community, and Blockhouse is also, you know, starting to really
more things going on here
expand.
too. Since we've opened up. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, I like to think that both you and I are walking billboards to, I think, a good practice. And it's never going to be about perfection, but it's certainly going to be, for me, it's all about just balance and self-care and self-love. And if you've got the self-care and self-love, then you don't care about perfection or worrying about hitting that perfect pose or looking a certain way. It doesn't matter. Just being present and bringing in the moment. That's the other thing that's the gift of yoga, is that it really teaches you to be here in this moment.
And the idea that, I think the big thing that people think that, they have to be flexible to come to yoga. It's like, no, you don't. You come to yoga to get flexible and strong. So that's, just want to dispel that myth. Like that's probably the biggest thing that people think, I can't. It's like, it's what holds them back. Like, no, don't worry about that. That'll come.
I've been on a personal mission for over 20 years that I've been teaching to just dispel that whole myth, because that's the first thing people think of as the human pretzel and just some of the extreme poses they've seen. And there are certain styles of yoga that really do promote that, and that's fine. I mean, there's obviously an audience and people that gravitate to that whole thing and that way to express yoga, but that there's so many different kinds of yoga that you're going to find something that's going to fit and work for you. And that's the other thing, is that even if you've had maybe not the best yoga experience in a class, like some people just put off because they traipsed into a class without realizing that they were in like advanced level 3 or whatever, and however it was categorized, and they were traumatized and haven't been back for 5 years. But, just give it another shot. Try somebody else, and be sure to know that there's going to be something that's going to fit you and your body and where you're at. And there is something for everyone.
Awesome. So I'm not sure if your screen is frozen or if it's just mine, but I could hear everything you've said, but you've frozen in time. So what would you say would be the best way if anyone wanted to reach out to you to learn more or to find out what might be the best yoga for them? What's the best way to reach out to you guys?
The best way is to check out blockhouseyoga.com. There is a lot of information there, and if they have questions, there is a place that they can send a comment that gets to both Alex and I, and one of us will respond. And be happy to have a conversation with them to help them find the right class, or if it needs to start out with they're a little shy and they want to do some private stuff, like just do one-on-one at first to get comfortable with the basics. That's fantastic too. We can work with them as well, especially if there's anything in particular that they want support with, then we can help them with that too. So
Awesome. Well, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up our meet and greet session?
No, other than just we really look forward to seeing some people dropping by tomorrow for our open house, and then just continuing on with all the classes we're offering right up to International Yoga Day. And a special shout out and thank you to MODL for the generous support.
The gifts are
and
fantastic.
the amazing door prizes
Yeah.
and online prize draws that we're going to be doing for the whole weekend. So
thank you for reaching out and wanting to do this with us. We really, it's really cool.
It's a nice union in keeping with yoga being about connection. We really do appreciate you being connected with us. That's awesome.
Absolutely. We're happy to have you guys on board and supporting some of these initiatives for our community. So if there's nothing else, I just wanted to say thank you, and we look forward to continuing over the weekend, all of the both virtual and in-person events tomorrow and beyond.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.